to move out of that seat? What makes you think you can go back in?
I think that's also motivation.
Everybody have the goal down. Got to get the goal in there. Today's goal is to consider how and why power affects relationships. Right? Because each day we're kind of growing our understanding of relationships in our books. And today we're going to think about power. So to start, I want you to think about a relationship that you have. And take a moment to think about it. It could be your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, your dog. Think about that relationship and then talk to the person next to you about how power plays a role in it. And so just, I want you to think silently for 20 seconds first, all right? Hold on. 20. All right. So no sounds. Think about that relationship. All right, now share. How does power play a role in that relationship? Go ahead, Jay.
No, that was not a question.
So can we just have one person share what they said, or you can tell us what your partner said? Hanukkah.
Stronger people with more power will be above other people, like in hierarchy, or they will be respected by the lower people, and I don't think it'll be easy to get closer and become friends.
Good point. She said that stronger people get, what did you say? They get what?
Respected.
Get respect, okay? So get attention. The sad thing about life is that the stronger amount of people that get respect and attention aren't always the brightest. Right? So we have an expression in English, we say, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Have you heard that expression, the squeaky wheel? Similar, but the person who complains is the one that gets something fixed. Right? But yeah, good example. Now, can you connect that in your life? Are there examples of that? You don't have to share.
Like you might have a boss in your work, and you cannot call your boss like your man.
Tell me. Who else? Who else has an example? Quickly. Jay.
Like when you deal with your friend, like real stronger in power, physically strong friends usually like choose what they will play and what they should do.
Right. So you guys, you experience this now. Growing up, the bigger kids among your group of friends are probably the ones that make more decisions than smaller ones. Right? Do you think, is that true? Is that true in your groups? stronger personalities, the bigger people, right? Bigger kids. Maybe making a lot of decisions for a group. Maybe not. So I'm going to continue reading our story now. You remember Skip put the Scotch tape in Will's hair. And he gently pulled it off. Right? Skip tried to gently remove it. Right? So we drew this thing. This thing. Right? We talked about how there are our initial reactions, right, to Skip. We thought, oh, what a bad guy, what a mean guy. But when we went through it again, we saw that he gently tried to remove the Scotch tape. He didn't rip it off, right, like it's wax, right? None of that, right? He was gentle. But Will runs out of the room, right? So I'm going to continue reading. You can follow along. This is at the line is, even at the age of 9. Did we read that part? Who's got a mentor text? Should be everybody.
Me. I got no mentor text. I have the mentor text.
All right, so we're at the line. It begins even at the age of 9.
32. Let's share.
32. Actually, no, we read it. So he goes looking for his mom, right? And then I realized that I was talking to my father, not my mother. So he runs into the room, right? He doesn't knock, and he's ready to start talking. Mom, Skip put. It's not mom there, it's dad, right? So we get a new character. Okay, so up here I got dad. I got our relationships up here, right? New character. Now, as we get into this, things we need to remember. When we notice trouble, we got to ask ourselves, what's happening between the characters? So we got a new character here. We're going to meet Dad, and in our head we're thinking, what's going on with Will and Dad? What is their relationship like? We're also going to remember, expect our initial ideas to shift, okay? And ask what's really happening between the characters. Okay? And for today, we need to think about power. So think about putting on the glasses. Where are the glasses? Okay, we're putting on the glasses. And we're going to look through the lens of power today. Huh?
Color changed.
Yes. So what's the lens we're looking through today, Eric? Lens of power, right? Anybody want to volunteer to wear these?
Yeah.
There you go. Thanks for volunteering. In order to understand the enormity of the mistake I had made, you have to understand my father. My father was 5'7.5" tall. Do you know how tall that is? 5'7"?
172.
It's like 175. 172.
What is your height?
180. A little shorter than me. Is 5'7".
Can you stand up?
5'7.5" tall. Yeah.
How tall are you in feet?
5'11". Tall, stocky, powerfully built, and larger than life in laughter, strength, character, integrity, humor, appetite, wit, in insight, and rage. Consequently, he was not concerned with the little things in life, such as sibling shenanigans, rivalries, or disputes. His job, as he saw it, was to make us the best human beings we could possibly be, to guide us, love us, and teach us the large laws of honor, courage, honesty, and self-reliance. He was the only man to turn to if you had a severed artery, broken ribs, or any serious disease or financial problems. But he was not the kind of man one would knowingly burst in upon screaming anything less than, "This house is on fire!" or "Somebody stole your car!" I knew this, of course, which is why I had run to my mother's room in the first place, and why, when I saw my father, most of the color drained from my face. My first impulse was to walk backward out of the room, closing the door gently before me as I did so. But had shifted. Wait, did I get lost? Closing the door gently before me as I did so. But I had shifted so suddenly from offensive indignation to defensive fear and astonishment that I felt a little disoriented. For a moment, I considered telling him that I smelled smoke or saw someone stealing his car, but I couldn't lie. I couldn't tell the truth either. In fact, for a moment, I couldn't speak. Now, we're getting a real intense picture of this dad, right? Let's think about the details. Okay, let's think about the details we get about Dad and what they mean in terms of power. Okay? So, read through again, and I want you to figure out who's got more power in this relationship. Dad, right? What words in that paragraph connect to power? Look through again. No, that's coming up. In the paragraph that describes Dad, what words connect to power?
Magnetism. Powerfully
Tall.
built, stocky.
Tall.
What's stocky?
Great.
Powerfully strong. Strength.
So we got powerfully built, not concerned with little things in life, rage, right? So we have lots of power words in there, right? We know Dad's powerful, but we need to push ourselves, right? And think about how this imbalance, what's an imbalance?
Not balanced.
That's right, define imbalance in terms of Will and his dad.
Too much power goes to his dad and not much goes to them.
Right, so it's his dad has some kind of supreme power, right? Now, how does this affect their relationship? Right, Will, he's scared. Right, he's real scared. So how do we know how scared he is? What are the clues in that paragraph? Huh?
He was a little
The
disoriented.
color drains off.
The color drained from his face. He was going to lie. He was going to back out of the room silently.
Defensive fear.
Right? So in our head, we got to be putting together like this power imbalance, and it leads to fear, and we find that in the text through these small actions that Will performs. Okay. So let's think about. We're going to continue to hold this or wear this lens of power. I'm going to keep reading. Okay. What the hell are you doing? My father said. I started to say, I was sitting at my desk, minding my own business, and I stopped. I stopped because I knew instinctively that Scotch tape on my head was not enough. Not nearly enough to warrant my wild, unannounced entrance into this room. When? What? Nothing. You run in here screaming about something. What happened? You didn't what? I didn't know you were here. So what? You knew someone was here. What did Skip do? Skip, I was sitting at my desk and Skip what? Tell me, Daniel. Put scotch tape on my head. This apparently was all my father needed to set the wheels of his anger in motion. You come running in here without knocking because Skip put scotch tape on your head? No, you don't care that the door was closed? You don't care that your mother might have been sleeping? I wanted to explain to him that this had been going on for years, that Mom and Skip and I had an understanding, but I knew that we weren't having a discussion. I knew that he was working himself into a rage, and that anything I said would only make it worse. Is this what you do? You run into rooms screaming? He was on his feet now and advancing toward me. You don't knock? No. Yes. At this point, my brother entered the room, saw what was happening, and stood transfixed. What's transfixed mean?
Like stood still.
Right, like he's got his eyes on Dad, he can't move. Here, my father said, here's what we do with scotch tape. And with that, he pulled the whole wad off my head, along with 50 or 60 of my hairs. Right, not 5 or 6, 50 or 60. Yeah. I knew that he was only a few seconds away from closing arguments now. And my calculations were just about right. You don't ever come in without knocking. Do you hear me? Do you hear? Yeah, he's slapping him. At this point, I heard a wheeze of escaping laughter where my brother was standing.
He's rocking.
Now the brother's laughing, and I saw him run out of the room. Now, we got some serious power struggles going on. What do you think? Bad dad? So I want you to talk about how power affects these relationships right now, quickly. Turn to the person next to you and think, what's going on with power?
So it was the power of
All right, let's come back together. So I hear you guys talking about the father he's got the power, right? Clearly. And for him, that power, he is abusive. Right? He's physically abusive. He rips his hair out, he smacks him.
Yeah.
Now, when we look at these other relationships, who has the power? Like Will and Mom. What do we know?
Mom will.
Well, they said that they have some kind of agreement, right? So it's a bit more balanced than Will and Dad, right? Here, obviously, Dad has the power. What about Skip and Dad? Dad, right? But with Skip and Will, in which relationship is the power gap smaller?
Well, I know Skip and Dad.
Skip and Dad, right? Because Skip, he's the older brother. The dad doesn't say anything. What does the dad do to Skip?
Nothing.
Nothing, right? What about Mom and Dad?
But Dad, like, this means not.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know yet, right? So as we're looking at this interaction between Will and Dad, and the power imbalance here is real clear, but you got to remember that all characters, right, have negotiated power and who has what and how much of it, right? And then this affects their relationship. Okay? Let me keep reading. So Pop says, do you hear me? Or the brother ran out of the room. Do you? Yes, Pop. Yes, I hear you. Are you ever going to come in here without knocking again? No. No. Ever. No. Now get out of here. I got out and heard the door slam behind me. What an evil dad, huh? There was not much to do after that but sit at my desk and wonder what had happened. I had been signing my name. Skip put scotch tape on my head. I ran to tell Mom, found Pop, and the lights went out. Where, I wondered, was the justice in that? Hey, Miss Al.
Mr. Argo.
Thank you. Obviously, when I burst into my mother's room, I had entered a larger world of justice. A world where screaming, whining, mother dependence, not knocking on closed doors, and startling one's father were serious crimes. That part I understood. The part I didn't understand was the part about why my brother, who had started the whole thing by putting scotch tape on my head, hadn't been punished. So in the interest of a smaller justice, I went over to his trophies and gradually wrestled the little gold-plated athlete off its mount. With a little luck, my brother would want to tell Pop about it. And you know what that is? You know what the trophy is? What's the trophy?
The thing you get when you win.
You know, the little thing, and it's got the gold guy on top. Right, so Will goes and gets the gold guy and breaks it off.
How can you do that? If it's like not real gold,
They're not real gold, it's plastic.
What's the title of this one?
First French kiss.
French kiss?
Yeah.
I've read French kiss.
Yeah, the title of the book is First French Kiss.
First French kiss.
Ew.
And there's a bunch of stories like this about a young, about Will. So, as we read today, this is what we got to think about.
What if we finish our books?
You're going to keep building another one.
Oh, I finished.
So look, Dan, you got to pay attention to me, all right? I've been hearing you guys talk the whole time. I hope you're talking about Will and Skip. So when we're reading and we're thinking about power, okay, we need to ask, who has more power and how do you know? Okay? So think back in the beginning of the class, I gave you 20 seconds to think about a relationship. You remember that?
Yep.
Think about that relationship again, and in your head, tell yourself the answer to this question. Who has more power? How do you know? So whatever relationship you were thinking of, just think about it for a moment. Why do these power issues feel important? How are they windows to bigger social issues? It's an important one. So with Will and his father, okay, what bigger social issue?
Who are they?
Huh?
Who are they?
It's Jay and Alex.
What?
Oh, Alex hair is very stylish.
How are they? So how are power issues, right? How are power issues windows to bigger social issues? Yeah, so in this one we've got spanking, right? Child abuse. Now that's a bigger social issue, right? There's lots of people that work in that area and study, like children who are spanked grow up to be more violent than children who are not spanked. Right? There's that whole thing. It's an issue. Right? Child abuse is an issue. How can they, having power issues, help teach us bigger life lessons? Right? So these are the things we want to think about as we read. Now, just quickly, one more time, I want you to talk to your partner about that relationship you considered at the beginning of the lesson. And just share the answer to the first question. Who has more power, and how do you know? Okay. Talk to each other now.
When you want to know.
I'll give you 1 minute.
You have to look at your actions and how people
My brother and my
Stop
family
that.
are like